Good morning, everyone. It's been a full week in 3.21 Crucible League, and I just wanted to give you guys the final update on my Fire Trap League starter. As of yesterday, I kind of sat down for a few hours and fully, quote-unquote, finished the build. I leveled it up from 96 to 100 in 5 ways. Hit 96 naturally, but then 5 ways are looking pretty cheap. It was 1 divine for 7 runs. You know, may as well just do that. Finished up level 100, put in the final points where I went into the cluster jewel setup with 1 large and 2 medium cluster jewels. I don't currently have a Watcher's Eye. That's a thing that I could still do. Investment is somewhere in the 20 to 30 divine range. That's really where I kind of put the limit on what you would consider your league start. It went incredibly smoothly. I honestly can't really imagine too much better of a league starter for myself personally. Is currently at the point, 20 to 30 divines. And Ubers feel very, very comfortable. This is Uber Shaper in the background right now. It can do all of the regular content in the game pretty darn easily. You would definitely want to do a couple variations for very deep delving or wave 30 simulacrum. But besides that, it can do basically everything in the game. Super, super happy about it. And I just wanted to share with you guys how I put it together. I'll go into as much detail as I can about crafting and why all the pieces fit together the way that they do. So yeah, let's get right into it. All right, so here she is. I'm level 100 with 5,400 life. With my flasks up, I have 12,700 armor, 26,700 evasion. Armor is not like a primary defensive layer, but that's enough to make a difference while you're mapping. Max spell suppression. Because we have Inveterate, we actually prevent 53% of the damage. Mostly curse capped on our resistances right here, but I also have reduced effective curses on me. Capped on chaos res, and fully ailment immune. I'm currently at 20.3 million DPS. Really cool thing is we have a lot of life regen. A lot of that is because we have this new mastery here with their generate life per uncapped fire resistance. This was actually a pretty big buff to this build going into this league from last league. I ran a level 21 vitality last league and going up to 470 right here. And even more, actually, if I've been hit recently, I'm using the boot enchant. That actually goes up to 580. And even better, I did learn to appreciate Soul of Arakali since we have so much base recovery on our life right here. If we have been hit recently, I'm using the boot enchant for 2% regen. And if we stop taking a dot recently, that life regen goes up to 696. So the most important thing here is let's just focus on the gear. Like I said at the beginning, the investment is somewhere in the 20 to 30 divine range. As always, buy early, buy often, especially with things that you know the price is going to go up. So let's actually start off with my usage of the Crucible trees here. So the most important thing here that really enables this version of the build, we can get Eldritch Battery on a Scepter Crucible tree, and we smush it together onto our good item right here. And this gives us Eldritch Battery instead of having to go for it on Skin of Lords or changing our path to go up along the top to try to get that. And then by using Eldritch Battery, what that enables, Evolve, we can totally ignore our mana cost on everything. Mana is very, very comfortable. It also allows us to reserve 100% of our mana, which allows me to run a high level of vitality in addition to all of my other auras. And then the big thing that makes EB just so used these days, and it's like the reason why it's so meta, is we have Divine Blessing right here. And what Divine Blessing allows you to do is cast an additional aura as a buff. By default, it's around 10 seconds, but I have this mastery here for 50% duration. So my Divine Blessing, I get 15 seconds of a Malevolence aura. And it's not just Malevolence aura, it's even stronger. So supported skills has 15% increased aura effect. That would go up if I leveled it up, but it makes it cost more mana. So we're just keeping this at level 1. And then I have a very strong Malevolence here, even stronger with the implicits on my body armor. So my Malevolence gives me a ton of damage. If we take a look right here, 36% of my damage is coming from this Malevolence Divine Blessing. I go from 14 to 20 million DPS with that. That's really the power of Eldritch Battery, juicing up your Malevolence as much as possible. This is where a gigantic percentage of our damage comes from. You do have to remember to press the button occasionally. You don't really have to press it outside of boss encounters. I press it before I pop an Essence or do Crucible or a boss or something like that, but I don't press it that often. Other thing that you can do that some folks don't know is you can rebind your off keys right here. So you can see that my control binds, I actually have bound to different keys. So I have my Divine Blessing actually bound to R right here. And then in this helmet, we have it double corrupted with 90% cost and reservation multiplier, as well as 6% increased life. Basically perfect double corrupt right here. By having all of our auras in here, because it's cost and reservation multiplier, not just reservation, this also affects our Divine Blessing cost, which is very helpful. And you'll see that I've been corrupting a fair number of these. This is a very cheap helmet. I've been corrupting a bunch of them. Very easy to go for, no big deal. That's a really good way for you to push the build to the next level. I don't currently have a Helm enchant. I would absolutely love to have something. I had previously had Frostblade Distance, which is great. Would really love something like Grace or Determination mana reservation efficiency. That would give me a lot more leeway with my mana right now. So we have this very expensive Divine Blessing. This does make it cost a lot of mana. How are we able to do that? There are two things here that are really important to enable the Eldritch Battery. You'll notice that my body armor is not an energy shield base. I actually have pretty low energy shield, so how do I get around this? Normally, I would recommend having 700 to 800 ES. That will make it pretty comfortable, so I had to do some creative problem solving. Big thing here is this mastery that I fell in love with. Skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost. Instead of this costing over 700 mana, because 30% of it turns into life cost, it actually only costs 432 mana and 197 life. 430 life regen per second, we kind of don't even notice it. It combines so perfectly with all of the life regen that we have. It's a spectacular solution for any fire-based build that needs to solve mana cost. You'll see that it takes almost all of my energy shield. That could get kind of uncomfortable. If you need to get it up again and you need a little bit more time, I got a solution for you. The Veiled Suffix on a belt right here, regenerate energy shield while a rare or unique enemy is nearby. Obviously, this doesn't do very much while you're mapping, but you don't really have to press your Divine Blessing while you're mapping anyway. This is the Unveiled one, is 200 energy shield per second, but you can also just craft it at 150. I am still using the exact same scepters and the exact same amulet from the last video. Haven't touched those at all. My rings, I have changed a little bit. Basically, I just crafted them to get more resist. I gave up a little bit of damage to get a little bit more comfortable there. Put on Resistant Catalyst. This was a very cheap base. Pretty sure I just threw this into Reforged Chaos and Harvest. I hit something decent like this with T2 life, and I kept it. This could definitely get upgraded very easily. Very similar with this, I just spammed Essences of Anger on this ring, and this is what I got. I hit T1 life, and I said, pretty good. So my rings are basically just there to solve my resist quite a bit. Like I showed earlier, this is my belt. What I did is I took single pristine fossils, just the life fossils, and I threw it onto it until I hit those prefixes. Then I did prefixes can't be changed. I used a Veiled Chaos Orb, and I unveiled the energy shield right here. And then I slammed on T1 stun and block recovery. I'll probably do another prefixes can't be changed Veiled Chaos Orb. I'd very much like not stun and block recovery, but it is what it is. Gloves are the same from the last video. Boots are the same from the last video. And then my big one right here, I guess I would call this my pride and joy right here. This is the Corruption Shelter Triumphant Lamellar. With Skin of the Lords being exorbitantly priced, I had to be a little bit creative in trying to find alternative solutions. And a few nights ago, I remembered that you can get gem levels on a body armor. And so I looked into what that would take. This is a thing that you may not know, is there's actually delve mods for plus gem levels from faceted fossils. So if you look on the front page of Craft of Exile, you do not see these mods. But if you go to the emulator, you can see what it takes to get them. So this is the faceted fossil here that says more gem modifiers. And so if we use a faceted fossil on this body armor right here, you'll see plus socketed intelligence and strength gem. And so what I did, unfortunately, I don't know if you can even use the calculator to let it tell you the best combinations to get things. I just tried to brainstorm a little bit myself. I wrote it down right here in the Discord as I was doing the crafting. What I did is I bought the Fractured Base for 10 chaos. Took me 10 attempts of 3 socket resonators, which are 1 chaos each, faceted fossils, which are 30 chaos each, for a total of 300 chaos, and then dense and pristine fossil. So pristine says more life, no defense, and dense says more defense, no life. What that does is ensure as few mods as possible are going to be in the pool, so you're more likely to see more gem modifiers. So what I did is I went to the emulator here, I chose dense, faceted, and pristine, and I just clicked a few times, saw how hard it would be to hit strength and dexterity gems. This basically would have been perfect for me. I just wanted some spell suppression, but I ended up with dexterity, which I'll go into is also basically spell suppression in a second. I hit it in 10 tries, and since we have fractured life on here, I used a Wild Bristle Matron. This is basically the go-to for crafting right now. Wild Bristle Matron. This is going for 0.6 to 0.8 divines. Looks like it's up to 125 chaos today. It's one of the new beast crafts from the memory. What it does is it gives you a random meta mod. Prefixes can't be changed, can't roll attack modifiers, anything like that. The only prefix meta mod is suffixes can't be changed. So if you have full suffixes on your item, you are guaranteed to get suffixes can't be changed. This is how I craft a lot of things. Wild Bristle Matron into Veiled Chaos Orb. Then I crafted Chance to block attack damage because I just don't really care about that. Unveiled the T1 life, and then I just crafted Armor and Evasion right here. I do want to change this craft into the Gravicious 6% Fizz taken as Lightning and Fire, but I don't have that unveiled yet. That's kind of like the next step. And then I 6-socketed and 6-linked it manually, so the total cost, including that, was about 500 chaos. So roughly 2.5 divines or so to craft this body armor. Not bad, right? If we take a look here and we mouse over Skin Lords, you see I get 4.4 million more DPS. if I upgraded to a skin. It is that good. I mean, it is an S tier item. It's best in slot for a lot of builds. But yeah, it's very, very expensive, and I just can't justify it right now. The other downside about a Skin of Lords is we would lose a significant amount of spell suppression. This mastery used to be 12% chance if your helmet, gloves, and boots had evasion. Unfortunately, for our intents, they changed it to 15% if your body armor also has evasion. Unfortunately, Skin of Lords doesn't have any evasion, so we would lose that mastery. So capping spell suppression would actually get significantly more challenging. Anyway, this is actually really the biggest change right here. Spell suppression would be better. If I had T2 or T3 spell suppression right here, it would be spectacular. But since we're using Magebane right here, we get 1% chance to suppress per 15 dexterity. Since I hit dexterity here on the roll, I decided to build around having dexterity to cap my spell suppression. And you'll notice that I have 250. So this tier 3 dexterity gives us almost 3 spell suppression by itself. It's just enough. I'm at exactly 100% spell suppression, which is what we need. And then the other big notable thing since the last video is our cluster jewel setup right here. So for the large cluster jewel, I kind of just bought whatever. This cluster jewel was like 20 chaos, something like that. I just wanted to buy something that gave me damage. It doesn't really matter which ones that we have here. I just wanted more damage. If you look at the notables on a fire cluster jewel, they're basically all 20 to 35, 40% damage. I didn't really try to min-max it. What I looked for to max my spell suppression is something that just had dexterity on it. So all I did is I searched for 3 notables and dexterity. They're all basically the same. There is the one that gives you 10 all res that would be pretty comfortable. I would have preferred that a little bit, I guess, but they're all pretty good damage. They're all going to give you about 20 to 40% damage per node. Cremator, since we don't kill by hits, this is not really doing anything. It's just 30% damage. The entire reason we use a large cluster jewel is so we can use medium cluster jewels. So I chose Flow of Life for increased damage, 4% life, and then some regen, as well as Wasting Affliction, which gives us increased damage with ailments as well as 10% faster on those ignites. And these cluster jewels weren't expensive. I just bought them like this for 30, 40 chaos or so. And then the small jewels are just like whatever, fire damage, burning damage, faster ailments, stuff like that. Just a cheap little corrupted blood jewel right here. I think I found this one actually in a Vault Temple, and I said, you know what, that's pretty good. Definitely run Vault Temples if you want to find corrupted blood jewels. They're pretty cool. And yeah, that's really it. Those are all of the changes to the build since the last update video. A lot of the stuff has kind of stayed the same. Really the big thing was crafting this body armor, push my damage to the next level, as well as a double corrupted helmet right here, moving into some awakened gems right here, and yeah, just kind of filling everything out. The build for me, for all intents and purposes, I hit level 100, 20 to 30 divines invested, is done. I can fight Ubers pretty comfortably, and then I just want to call additional attention to, if you want to go extra tanky, you can just put on a Dawnbreaker. This is a very, very cheap shield, a perfectly rolled Dawnbreaker, 20% Fizz taken as fire. This is the most important modifier, is still only about 10 to 15 chaos. All you have to do is take the shield. You can double corrupt it. You want to go for Fizz taken as something else. You can get additional PDR. So if we take a look, if I put on this Dawnbreaker and replace my other shield, it brings me up to 107 EHP. I only lose 5 million DPS, going from 20 to 15 million DPS. You're still very comfortable playing the game. And then the big thing would be add in something like a Ruby Flask, really well-rolled Dawnbreaker, and you'll take less Fizz, cold, and lightning damage as well. Really think the shield is pretty underutilized if you just want to get really, really, really tanky. And especially this league, you could find a really cool Crucible tree. Unfortunately, this one's pretty bad. I didn't really hit anything good on it. But yeah, this is kind of like once your build is put together, once you hit a comfortable amount of damage, you can drop one of your scepters and kind of slot this puppy in. And then you'll be very, very tanky. You can relatively deep delve. I have tested this at depth about 650, and it just feels great. That is the end of my Fire Trap League Starter. It does everything that I wanted to do and even more. I had a blast. And now I'm looking to the future for whatever the next build is. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all soon. Goodbye.